Hello and good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Anusabata Desa Wekanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfredy Ocansey. Tonight, the committee set up to inquire into the petition seeking the removal of the Chief Justice and Leadership Justice Gertrude Tukono begins hearing tomorrow. And this is in camera. We'll tell you what is to be expected in this process that kickstarts tomorrow. Stay with us. Go and sin no more. That's how the chapter closes on Sammy Gyamfi's dollar gift saga. At least at the level of the presidency, we'll hear from the government spokesperson how this decision was reached, and also from our anti-corruption crusaders who have also been talking about this. Stay with us. Also, national security operations lead to the arrest of some illegal gold traders, all of whom are foreign nationals. We have more on this, especially the growing involvement of different nationalities in this illegal business of galamsey and then illegal trading of gold as well. The focus over the time has always been on the Chinese, but guess what? We have from what we're hearing, close to about 20 different nationalities all involved in this illegal trade. Stay with us. We've got details for you. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using tonight is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The five-member committee established by President Mahama to investigate 3 petitions filed against the Chief Justice Gertrude Tukono is set to begin its hearing tomorrow, Thursday, May 15. The committee, chaired by Supreme Court Justice Gabriel Pwamang, was constituted in accordance with Article 146, Section 6 of the Constitution, following consultation with the Council of State and a determination of a prima facie case against the Chief Justice. The committee is scheduled to convene 3 times each week and will submit its recommendations to the President upon the conclusion of its work. President John Dramani Mahama has announced that no further disciplinary action will be taken against the acting CEO of the Ghana Gold Board. Sammy Gyamfi has faced public backlash after he was seen in a viral video handing an undisclosed amount of US dollars to evangelist Patricia Isiedu Isiama. Briefing the press, Minister of Government Communications Felix Kwachufosu announced that President Mahama has decided to accept Mr. Gyamfi's public apology.
The presidency acknowledges Mr. Sammy Gyamfi's immediate act of contrition and the acknowledgement of the need to express regret over that incident. So that apology has been taken on board. You do recall that when President Mahama launched the Code of Conduct, he said that one of the remedies for any potential breach was a caution from the highest levels of government. After the interaction with the Chief of Staff, the Chief of Staff cautioned him, having acknowledged the apology he made.
An operation led by officials of national security has led to the arrest of some individuals trading gold illegally. Thousands of dollars plus gold bars were seized. National Security Coordinator DCOP Abdul Osman Razak said the move follows the enforcement of new laws aimed at protecting Ghana's mineral wealth and ensuring that gold trading remains the preserve of licensed and eligible persons.
We found out that the Indians use them to register companies, and they hide behind these Ghanaians to operate. They do that to evade taxes and also hide their faces behind whatever that they are doing. And so the Ghanaians are also being dealt with in a way. But because the foreigners are the main financiers of this activity, that's how come that we are showing their faces.
Parliament's Committee on Independent Constitutional Bodies is considering new legislation to tackle the growing threat of disinformation in Ghana. This follows proposals by the National Media Commission during a familiarization visit by the committee. The NMC is pushing for the creation of media monitoring centers and the passage of key digital regulation laws.
Every single piece of material that you put out carries a special secret number of the phone that generated it. As it goes along, every phone that it passes through, it will pick. So if we decide that we want to track, it may take some time, because sometimes it requires people to sit down and work on it. But if you want to trace it, you can trace it.
Management of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital have been encouraged to make the environment safer for patients. Health Minister Kwabena Mensah Akando, during a working visit to the hospital on Wednesday, bemoaned the poor maintenance culture at some health facilities across the country.
If you look at the structures, what it tells you is that we have a very, very poor maintenance culture. Some of these things have been abandoned for a very long time. We are all going to go back to see how we can do it.
It's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. As always, we're live on 3 FM 92.7, and so it's probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso Insecticide Spray and Coil, Kumtumtum Preco. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, the committee set up to inquire into the petition seeking the removal of the Chief Justice, leadership Justice Gertrude Tokono, begins their work, their hearing process tomorrow. We'll tell you what the process will be in the coming days as they start their work in camera tomorrow. And the Constitution gives us at some pointers to it. And this is in the detail of a statement that we got earlier today from the presidency, signed by Felix Kwachu-Fosu, who's a spokesperson to the president, and the minister in charge of government communications, to the effect that the 5-member committee established by the president to investigate the 3 petitions filed against the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono is set to begin its hearings tomorrow. That's Thursday, May 15. The committee will give you the details of it, the composition of this committee, just to remind you, and then also how the way forward will be. Dennis Pabe Wadam Esquire is joining me in the studio for a conversation on this. Just a quick backtrack. Let's recall the constitution of the membership of this 5-member committee who is starting their work tomorrow. Dennis.
Well, Alfred, so let's start off with the committee, 5-member committee chaired by Justice Gabriel Palmer, a Justice of the Supreme Court. Also on that committee is Justice Samuel Kwame Asedu, also a Justice of the Supreme Court. We have former Auditor General Daniel Yaodomelevu also on that particular panel. Major Flora Dalogu of the Ghana Armed Forces is also on that committee. And then we have Professor James Sefa Jisa, also an Associate Professor of the University of Ghana, on that committee. This committee, we know, is being put together pursuant to Article 1466 of the 1992 Constitution. And if you've been following this discussion, by now you will be familiar with the whole provision and all the provisions under Article 146, because it's basically been from 1 running through all to clause 11. Mm-hmm. But this committee, like I said, was set up pursuant to Article 1466, mm-hmm. and that is where the committee has been put together, specifying who should be the members. Right. Now, the question is, what is the next line of action per this communication coming from the presidency? The presidency simply says that the committee is going to start hearing. I have heard some people construe that to mean that it is tomorrow that the committee is going to start its work. But that's, unfortunately, is not the true reflection of it. Hearing has its own meaning when it comes to law. So what, in a sense, the committee will be doing tomorrow would be by way of beginning to hear evidence or people beginning to testify before the committee. So it's not as though the committee is going to start its work tomorrow. In any case, it was, the committee, the prima facie case, when it was established, the petitions were referred to the committee. Yes. So it means that the committee already has their petitions. They've been looking, yes, they've been looking into the petitions, but hearing, as we are now told, will begin tomorrow. And that is by way of witnesses now beginning to appear, to begin to testify, and all the looking on the inquiry would begin tomorrow. So it's not as if the committee is going to start its work tomorrow. Well, so after the clause 6, what follows will be clause 7. And that is what has been announced, that the committee appointed under clause 6 of this article shall inquire into the petition and recommend to the president whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office. That is what it simply says, and that's what has been announced. This has its own matters, because there's been a lot of conversation as to the nature of how this should happen. But of course, like I did indicate, it is the case where whoever is alleging that somebody has done wrong will appear before the committee to put their case before the committee. The person on the other side, the provisions will specify how that person too can appear, whether appear by yourself or by a lawyer or other aspect of his choice.
And
so
all of this is going to be
all
done?
These are expected to be coming up in the coming days.
In camera?
In camera, yes. So that's what the clause 8 says, that all proceedings under this article shall be held in camera, and the Chief Justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his defense by himself or by a lawyer or other experts of his choice. Remember that when we started this conversation, we made reference to cases of Ejechum, we made a reference to the Tiger IPI and Derry case, where parts of this came up for interpretation to mean that what this means is that it actually includes the petition itself, is the reason media houses are unable to put out the full complement of the petitions out there, because the requirement is that everything should be in camera. Then follows the clause 9, which says that the president, yes, that's what it says.
And the committee, per this statement that you referred to from the presidency, they're supposed to be sitting three times a week. 3 times a week, beginning tomorrow.
Yes.
And, but we don't know how long.
How long. So that's also another issue that has come up for discussion as to how long the committee is going to sit. I mean, again, I've seen a member of parliament make an argument forcefully that there ought to have been specific timelines. However, when you look at the law that they are working with, you do not find any timeline here that has been specified for the committee to do its work, except to just state, as we have shown, under 146(7) of the 1992 Constitution. So, Alfred, these are the matters that have come before us. And I mean, the coming days, we look forward to see how things are going to pan out in this. But you know, there are still pending matters in court as regards this particular matter.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And and that's where we need to also underscore the matters. And Dennis, appreciate you for this. It's very important detail and the dynamics that you bring to it. Martin Bebo is private legal practitioner. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. As reference has been made to the dictates of Article 146 in the Constitution 6 and beyond, as Dennis did run through right now, how is the coming days going to look like in respect of this process of a hearing by this 5-member committee in this Chief Justice's petitions and then the subsequent recommendation? How's the coming days going to look like?
Yeah, so it's going to be blistering, right? Yeah, because the trial promises to be a lot of fireworks. Fireworks because of blistering, because, you know, naturally, the Chief Justice is not going to take this lying down. She's going to come out fighting and firing all cylinders to be able to get an exoneration. So you can well imagine that that would be, quite blistering. It's going to be intense, because she will deploy every arsenal available to her to get an exoneration. So it won't be easy. And so, yes, once they say the hearings are going to take place, yes, nobody is allowed in there, but I can well imagine that it's going to be a blend of what we do in the traditional courts and also space for the judges, that's a committee members, to be able to ask more questions than is allowed in the traditional courts we use. You see, when you go to court today, we do an adversarial system. That's to say, the parties prove their cases. Then there's an inquisitorial approach where it is rather the judge who investigates both parties to see who has a better case. We don't do the inquisitorial approach in the traditional court. We rather do adversarial. If you come the one that we say, he who alleges must prove. He who alleges must prove. That's what we do in court. But under Article 146, it says it's an inquiry. So it allows the judges to do a lot of the investigations by themselves. Yeah, so the parties will do this, but the judges also, that's the committee members. Yeah, they are judges because they will come out with their recommendation. The judges, that's a 5-member committee, are allowed to do more investigations in the whole process. So this is how it will take. Each of the petitioners would come forward and then present his case. And I also mentioned that I won't be surprised that the committee will adopt what we do in court. Nowadays, in order to fast track the court, the hearing, we have what we call filing of witness statements. That's to say, everything you want to tell the court, put it on paper. Of course, there are some rules. We can't go into the rules, but just putting it simply, you put everything you want to tell the committee into on paper, then attach those ones that you have paper to back. It's not every evidence that is paper or an article. Sometimes your evidence is what you see with your eyes, all the senses, ears, nose, etc. So if it's that type and it's not paper, you will say, I saw it with my eyes, or I heard with my ears, or I smelled it with my nose, etc. So put everything on paper. So the day you enter the box, the lawyer will just ask a few questions to show that you are the one who wrote, that's the witness. The witness wrote that statement. Once that is done, then the whole statement will be adopted by the court as examination in chief. So instead of the witness talking 1 hour, 2 hours, everything he wants to say is on paper, and in 5 minutes, it's accepted by the court. So you see that we would have cut down time. Then the CJ's lawyers would then go ahead and ask questions of the witness to test whether the witness is telling the truth, and also tell the CJ story through that witness. Yeah, you advance your case. When the witness is done, the witness has a right to call other witnesses, because this witness I mentioned is actually a petitioner. So let's say if it's Shining Stars, Mr. J, after Mr. J is done, he can call witnesses. Generally, they are not limited. The main rule generally is that don't line up, let's say, 10 people to all come and repeat the same thing. But apart from that, if they are saying different things, generally you are given a latitude on how many witnesses you call. So each witness will come into the box, come with a witness statement to make it faster, and afterwards there will be cross-examination until it's done. So now let's remember something key. Remember election 2020 petition, the EC refused to testify. The court ruled that the EC doesn't need to testify, right? Good. So in the same manner, in this case, when the Chief Justice lawyers have asked all the questions they want to ask, if they think they've destroyed the case of the petitioners and their witnesses, they can decide that the Chief Justice will not testify. It's not compulsory. If they think they've done a good case, they've demolished the whole case, they can say, oh, the Chief Justice will not testify. But if they think, well, they still want to, maybe there are some lingering things that for the avoidance of doubt, she should testify, then she'll testify. But it's not compulsory. She's not under any compulsion to testify, like what happened in the election 2020 petition when Jane Mensah was not compelled to testify.
And Counsel, some good detail and some education then on how the process will be like from tomorrow as this committee begins their hearing. I appreciate you for this education, but stay with me. I want to be able to stay with me because coming up next, Go and Sin No More. That's how the chapter appears to have closed on Sammy Gyamfi's dollar gift saga. That's it, at least at the level of the presidency. We'll hear from the government spokesperson how this decision was reached and also from anti-corruption crusaders' perspective on this. Martin People is still with us on this particular issue because there were some divergent views as to what has to be done going forward to ensure this doesn't happen, apart from Sammy Gyamfi and public officers themselves being self-aware a lot more about their surroundings when they're in the process of doing good. But President John Dramani Mahama has announced that no further disciplinary action will be taken against the acting CEO of the Ghana Gold Board, Sammy Gyamfi. Now, he's faced public backlash and criticism after he was seen in a viral video handing an undisclosed amount of dollars to evangelist Patricia Esiedua Esiama, also known as Mama Pato Agrada, briefing the press minister in charge of government communications, Phyllis Kwachofosu, announced that the president has decided to accept Sammy Gyamfi's public apology, and also he has been cautioned about this conduct not repeating itself. Take a look.
You would recall that in the immediate aftermath of the emergence of the video, Mr. Sammy Gyamfi promptly issued an apology in which he expressed regret over the matter and took on board public concerns raised overseeing. A day after that, the chief of staff summoned him to the presidency to learn about what transpired. The invitation was honored by Mr. Sammy Gyamfi. He indicated to the chief of staff what his side of the story is, what explanation there is for what we all saw in the video. At the time, President Mahama was out of the country, so he had to be briefed on the discussions held with Mr. Sammy Gyamfi by the chief of staff, and he has been briefed. Now, the view is that to begin with, the presidency acknowledges Mr. Sammy Gyamfi's immediate act of contrition and the acknowledgement of the need to express regret over that incident. So that apology has been taken on board. You do recall that when President Obama launched the Code of Conduct, he said that one of the remedies for any potential breach was a public apology. He also said one of the potential remedies was a caution from the highest levels of government. After the interaction with the chief of staff cautioned him, having acknowledged the apology he made, he cautioned him and impressed upon him to take on board public sentiment and act in ways that reflect public expectation. The chief of staff also took the opportunity to reissue the same caution that the president had sent to all appointees to be circumspect in their conduct. There may be things that may be commonplace in our private lives, but once you become a public official, you need to be sensitive to public expectation, and therefore that ought to guide the way that you order your steps. So in view of that, presidency does not believe that any further action ought to be taken beyond the apology and the caution. And we all take a cue from it and are going to do better in order to meet the expectations of the Ghanaian public. We value feedback. We are aware that Ghanaians expect high standards in the performance of our duties as public officials. We remain committed to meeting those high standards to ensure that we deliver the best of governance to our people who have been long suffering in the last few years under poor governance. So that is what I have for you. It is not deemed at this moment necessary to take further action beyond what has already been done. And Mr. Sammy Gyamfi has committed to ensuring that such an incident does not recur. I thank you very much.
That's Phyllis Kwachofosu there, and acknowledging the high standards that this reaction indeed has sent, especially to public office holders. This is why I bring in Adam Seran, who's the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Martin Pebu is still with us. Mr. Ano, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So go and sin no more. look at the sequence of events. Sami Gyamfi himself also putting out a public apology even before less than 24 hours after that video went viral. And then he being summoned by the chief of staff. We understand he was cautioned, and now this decision by the presidency that after reviewing the video and investigating it, they decided that, or the president decided that no further action is to be taken in terms of disciplinary action because he has apologized. A good stroke, you would say?
Oh, yes, I think it's in order. I am happy to note that the presidency did not trivialize this issue. Neither did the person in question, Mr. Sami Gyamfi himself. So although my perspective has been that there is no specific law or policy that has been breached at this point, however, this was an indiscretion because we don't use dollars here, and now that he's a public officer, he's not in private life, all actions will deserve the scrutiny of citizens. So once you start giving out money as a senior public officer, people begin to legitimately ask, whose money are you spending? And so circumspection, moderation, and being very measured is important. I think that the presidency has done well. I didn't expect any other option because there wouldn't be a legal basis to say punishment A or sanction B. Even the code of conduct does not cover this. So perhaps it's an opportunity to upgrade certain portions to reflect anything that brings the government to disrepute or any kind of ostentatious, opulent kind of lifestyle that would raise questions and eyebrows. Having said that, I think that this is the way to go. And I'm happy they've managed to come out formally to say something to the people of this country.
And we'll get into the bit about the proposal you make, because you're not alone in this thinking that going forward, maybe the code should be amended to address also the public or the gift giving, because the code is very heavy on the receiving of gifts, right, by public officers, but quite silent on they giving gifts. But before that,
let me just say that that's a very critical point. It's critical because we all know that our public officers are spending a lot of money when they go to their constituencies, whether, weddings, whatnot, and all of that feeds into a vicious cycle.
Well, but
so if you're not careful,
does that not also bring another side of events, is it not? The reason why that action of MPs going to constituencies spending money has never been an issue is probably because of the objective and the recipients of these monies, that when they go into a constituency and they are paying fees and so on, it's not an issue. We'll see the money, all right. We'll see it captured on video.
But that's the reason why this is an opportunity to address that, because that is all part of opulence. That's all living beyond your means, and that is where then you'll be making demands and extorting or getting yourself into situations that you ought not to. And so it's good for us to talk about it if there's opportunity. And if you ask me, it's also the reason why the Conduct of Public Officers Bill should be dusted, finalized, and passed with all these things dealt with substantively. So you have sanctions spelled out in law, which any citizen can go to a court and hold a duty bearer responsible for.
Well, the Conduct of Public Officers Bill will spell out some detail, and that's why I bring you a people. And Mr. Sano, hold on a bit for me. This proposal, Council, about the regulation to, as it were, check the public act of giving by public office holders. Is it one that you subscribe to, or for instance, the asset declaration law can take care of that?
Yes, absolutely. It's the asset declaration law that appears more effective at dealing with this matter. The reason is that you can't make a law to limit charity. I mean, people's individual charity. No, we are different. Some people want to give away all the wealth they have. So if an MP is that type, how can we pass a law that he shouldn't do charity, or a minister, okay, or a CEO of a state-owned enterprise? So it is better we strengthen the asset declaration law to make sure that when the appointees file their assets, we get to know what they own, how much they are worth. So in other words, publication of the declaration. In other words, publish or you perish. So if the appointees publish what they are worth, then if we see them engage in certain kind of charities, we'll be able to tell whether this charity is commensurate or is proportionate to the net worth of the appointee or not. Yes, that's a better way. But to bring a law that will say no appointee should do charity beyond a certain figure or amount will be preposterous. I mean, MPs and, as I say, MDs of state-owned enterprises pay school fees, medical bills, I mean, you name it. And so we can't make laws that will stifle charity. No, rather, let's be sure that at the time you are giving out charity, it is your money. And how do we check that? We check that from the asset declaration the appointee has made. President Kufuor promised to pass it, but he didn't. You know, he kept promising. He said he will give us a world-class asset declaration law to replace the code of conduct in the Constitution. And that's the code of conduct for public officers covers the asset declaration. And also repeal of Act 550. That's the public office holders, into brackets, Asset Declaration and Disqualification Act, Act 550. Yes, so we need to repeal these laws and come with the world-class law that President Kufuor promised. It looks a bit strange. That money doesn't look like it's beyond Sammy James' income, right? The last time I knew, they say Sammy James even lives at Airport Hills whilst he was in opposition. Airport Hills doesn't come cheap, right? And also, he's somebody that people have testified to his benevolence, that he paid school fees of his classmates, etc. There are videos of him whilst he was in opposition. He showed what he had done in life. As I said, and nobody is contradicting that, right? So once those have not been contradicted, we have to grant him that. And so, if you look at the money he was in possession of, it doesn't look beyond his income. It's not like the Cecilia Adapa money that straight away, when you heard those millions, okay, $1 million, 300,000 pounds, then put together over, yeah, even hey, it's not $1 million, it's more than, you know, the initial amount was about $800,000. That's a cash, right? And then later the OSP went in there, searched and found close to was it $500,000 or $600,000 cash, and then the millions of Ghana cedis, and then the money in the accounts. So this is where the parameter. As soon as you hear all the sums involved, then the presumption of money laundering comes in, because straight away it looked beyond the income of a public officer. And Cecilia Adapa was given an opportunity to explain. If only she could explain the source of the income as allowed under Article 286 Clause 4, she could have walked free. But all her explanations didn't check out. So that case is vastly different from Sammy James' own, where that money so far, nobody can convince me that that money he counted is more than $3,000. It doesn't. And so the fake news, and let's mention, you know, some people then subsequently took old footages of Agrada, that's Patricia Esedua, counting money, $10,000. Then they said that's the money Sammy James gave her. It is false. Then some other people have shown pictures of money in a lot of dollars, saying that that money was at the back of Sammy James' car, also false. I think we should stop the disinformation, the fake news. It doesn't help us.
That's some extensive and expansive detail you give to back your position on this matter. That's quite to the contrary, the position that Adam Senano espouses. But Ms. Zano, before I bring you in, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, who is leading this entire constitutional review process as chair of the committee, also put out his own view on this on Facebook, his Facebook page. He said, "Is our largely negative reaction to this incident more about the identity of the person to whom the gift was made?" Because, as you indicated, members of parliament, other people who hold public offices do open donations. So he's going to ask a question, which I'm going to find your thoughts on. It says, would our reaction be as condemnatory had the gift or donation been made to a school or congregation or a needy patient? Did Agrada ruin everything for Sammy Gyamfi? Goes on and on. But the fundamental question that I want to ask you is that because you are proposing some sort of regulation to check public officers even in their benevolence, would our reaction be the same if this money was a donation to a school, congregation, or a needy patient?
I don't necessarily think so. I think that the first issue was the fact that this was done in dollars. I think that already does raise eyebrows. I've had some media people say it was just about $800. I mean, Sammy Gyamfi, lawyer, all that he does, I don't think that this should even have been a debate under more circumstances. I think it's also the position he occupies, that acting chief executive of the Gold Board, that begins to, so I don't think Agrada is so much. I mean, she just added to the drama. Plus her snatching all the money from Sammy, who looked even surprised. He looked speechless when she grabbed it from him. So in my mind, it is much more about the fact that he's now a senior public officer responsible for an entity that deals in good. And therefore, when you see dollars like that, you're wondering, is it his own money or not? And it's a legitimate question citizens might ask. And that is why I think his apology is in order, that, look, there should have been a lot more circumspect. Anybody can draw certain conclusions which are necessary at this point, which is what we are saying. All of them, this should be a red flag for them. They should be cautious. Be circumspect, be modest, be very measured with whom you are dealing with and what you're doing because of the positions you occupy. With regard to the so-called divergence with my good brother Martin, I think it's much more, what I'm saying is this: listen, where we are now, all of us think that we've gone through this kind of circle for too long. We need to keep an eye on the politician from day one. We are not going to do that kind of thing where we say we're giving you 1 year or 2 years grace before we start pointing out what is going wrong. Because we want change. We want to see that if we say it's a reset, the reset must work for all of us. And to that extent, if you're going to go giving money in your constituency, we'll be tracking you and monitoring. How much money did you give? It's in your own interest that you track what you're doing so that you don't end up doing what is way above your means, and that raises questions. And if it's going to take a code of conduct or some law to make public officers know that the monitoring that will be done includes the fact that whatever you are giving must be well within your means, I think that must be done. And that is the point I'm making. If it can be done without another law, and Martin thinks access declaration take care of it, well, all well and good. But my take is simply this. This kind of cycle we're going around. We're already saying that the monetization of our politics is creating a lot of problems. We already recognize that in many spaces where things should be done without demand for money, we are being, civil society and other groups are being asked to give money for A or B. We are saying all of that must stop. So let's note that the Ghanaian is awake, alert, and intending that we will support change, a change that moves this country forward.
Well, and you talk about a possible review, in your view, a review of the code of conduct to reflect some of these happenings. Where exactly should be reviewed, and what inclusion are you expecting?
Yes, I'm saying that, look, the current code, at least the president's code, which means that some people must let the president act. It's a bit of a deficiency, in my view. That's why let's just focus on Kopo, and all 35 million Ghanaians will be part of holding the officers accountable. it doesn't say anything specific about situations like this, where it is like opulence or ostentatious living. And as Martin has pointed out, it was much clearer in the Cecilia Dapa case because look, the money was all over. You open this door, it's falling out, that door, and so on and so forth. And Yoko Lord, the upgraded one, had a clear clause that if you are not able to explain the source of it, then it must be considered as money that came from some criminal source, and therefore the state can, can get it. I'm thinking that something to talk about opulent living or lifestyles that are above the means that that public officer has, and how that would also be acted upon, or what kind of sanctions would be raised, would be a good thing, so that there isn't that apparent lacuna or gap or gray area. Once it has happened, and this is a standard thing for industry players. When we are on the factory floor and something comes up, we generate new policy out of that. And we are continuously improving on policy. Policy is dynamic. So this should be an opportunity to make sure that the policy actually captures something that can deal with this, assuming it is repeated subsequently.
I do appreciate your thoughts on this. And this is a conversation that the forward-looking conversation will continue in the coming days, and you certainly will be part of it. Mr. Anu, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Anu is absolute. He's a co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, and this is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, and national security operations have led to the arrest of some illegal gold traders, all of whom are foreign nationals, Indians specifically. And this adds up to the conversation about the growing involvement of other nationals apart from Chinese, other foreign nationals apart from Chinese, in illegal mining and illegal gold trading. We'll tell you the list keeps growing by the day. The Forestry Commission is going to be joining us after this quick break. Stay with us.
what they are doing. And so the Ghanaians are also being dealt with in a way. But because the Indians or the foreigners are the main financiers of this activity, that's how come that we are, showing their faces. But of course, the Ghanaians too are being dealt with according to law.
Well, that's the National Security Coordinator there. And let's also underscore that this was done with the collaboration of the Ghana Gold Board. You saw the officials there as well addressing the media earlier today, and the exhibits the large sums of money in those about 10 bags that we saw at the National Security, the Secretariat earlier today. But based on the information from the Forestry Commission, we're talking about the growing number of foreign nationals who are involved in illegal mining in this country. That's Galamsey. Previously, the focus was on Chinese nationals who were either being fronted by Ghanaians or they themselves getting involved directly in illegal mining, and then they financing the process. And so then the influx of Chanfans and then locally made Chanfans as well in this country. But based on the Forestry Commission's own data, this involvement of foreign nationals in Galamsey or illegal mining is growing beyond just the Chinese. So, for instance, in Abrewa Ninkrang, in the Western region, that community that thousands of people in there were all illegal miners, the Forestry Commission and the military stormed that place, you remember, just about a month ago to destroy the entire community. Based on the records of the Forestry Commission, other nationals in there, close to about 9 of them. Beyond that, the Chinese, we do know, yes, but then we're also getting to know, based on the Forestry Commission's data, that Nigerians are also have been arrested. Some nationals, Nigerian nationals, arrested as being involved in illegal mining, Malians as well. We have Nigerians, all involved in illegal mining, Togolese, Ivorians, Guineans, people from Burkina Faso, Burkinabes, all involved in illegal mining based on the Forestry Commission's own data. Persons they have arrested with these operations that they are embarking on in these forest reserves. So it's not just about the Chinese now, that you'll find them in the thick of the forest or even in the full glare of the public these days, as you see when you travel to parts of the Ashanti region and then also the Western region, as we've seen. Now, what we do know is that these nationals, the Indians who were involved in not Galamsey, but the trading of gold illegally, 3 of them were arrested in Enyinem, which is in the eastern region, and the other 3 were arrested in the Ashanti region as well. So that's what we do know happened in these 2 specific operations that led to the arrest of these 2 groups of persons. So all 6 of them were trading in different locations, but they were clamped down by the national security in there. So that's the information we have, and the videos you're seeing on the screen there. And these Indians, we do know, are, at least based on the information so far, are the nationals who have been arrested as being involved in illegal trading of gold. But from the indication we get from National Security earlier today, they're also tracking other nationals who are involved in the illegal trading of gold after the coming into force of the Ghana Gold Board Act 2025. It's a continuous operation as well that we understand would lead to some further arrests based on the intelligence that the National Security has picked up as we speak. So that's the information right now, and this is one that we're keeping an eye on quite closely as well, and how things are evolving in this regard. But there's more of this on 3news.com. Can I make some time and visit 3news.com And on behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. My name is Alfredy Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by